Candlekeep Mysteries is a new official D&D book that released this morning. Let's do a spotlight on this. Let's jump into it. This is an anthology of 17 mystery-themed adventures for the world's greatest role-playing game. Here's my spotlight on this new book. This is definitely a DM-centric sort of book. Players are going to get some value here, of course, because this is what your dungeon master would be running at the table, but this is not a Xanathar's guide to everything. You don't have some new subclasses, there aren't any new class options, new feats, so on and so forth. There are, I believe, 12 new magic items, so obviously that's the sort of rewards that'll go to players, and you have 38 new monsters, but for the most part, this is a very dungeon master specific book for the DMs out there, which definitely appeals to me. So what do we have? A book of books. Candlekeep Mysteries is an anthology of adventures written by members of the D&D community. I like that a lot. I'll comment on that very, very quickly. When you have a diverse group of people that are writing and creating this stuff, you're getting their perspective on things, right? Every creator's ideas, their thoughts, their tone comes across oftentimes in their writing. So I like that you don't have sort of this one individual that has written all 17. So that in and of itself creates quite a bit of diversity in how the adventures are handled. Now, I'd assume that all of their submissions would have been run through sort of a quality control that WotC's going to ensure is prim and proper, as it's an official book. It has their name and stamp on it, but I do like that it's written by members of the D&D community. And also what it does is it kind of highlights to the creators out there, to the independent folk, that WotC's willing to work with you. You know, I don't know the details on who's written what and what their affiliation is with WotC, but from my understanding, some of these people are not, employees of the company itself. So really, really cool. Each adventure begins with a book that the characters will find in Candlekeep, an enormous library located on the Sword Coast in Forgotten Realms. If you're not running a Forgotten Realms campaign, you can adapt the adventures in this book for other settings, substituting any library similar to Candlekeep. And it gives you some examples in Wildmount, in Eberron, in Greyhawk, and so on. So I like that. I like that you can definitely kind of plug and play this anywhere you want. Now, using the adventures. The Candlekeep Mysteries table summarizes the adventures in this anthology. Each adventure is designed for 4 to 6 characters of a certain level. This runs the range from level 1 all the way up to an adventure for level 16. So 4 to 6 level 16 players. That's a good selling point right there, because you're running the gamut of all 4 tiers of gameplay: low level, mid level, high level. But you can adjust it for larger or smaller groups. It doesn't handhold you and say, this is exactly how you do it. Like in my case, I run 8 players. I'm definitely going to have to take any of these adventures, should I use them, twist and turn them a bit to fit this into my world and into my story, because it's accommodating 4 to 6, but it does give you a few little details here. Like you can swap one monster or trap for another, change the number of foes in an encounter, increase the DCs of the traps, and so on. So it does leave it open-ended enough, especially in the narrative, that if your group is a little bit under or above the range that the adventure is indicating, or if you're running 3 players or 9 players, you can probably still make these work. So that's a really good thing. Each adventure in this anthology embraces one of the following narrative conceits. The characters discover a book in the library that contains a mystery. Getting to the bottom of this mystery requires embarking on an adventure. And/or the characters come to Candlekeep on a quest for information, perhaps to solve a crisis somewhere else in the world. During their research, they uncover a book and the mystery it contains, which leads to adventure. One thing I love about this approach is it's screaming to us of adventure and mystery, right? The core and the essence of D&D, the idea that a dungeon master presents a hook, and he's hoping and expecting that the players will latch on and grab hold of that hook. That's why it's called a hook. You're hooked, and you're willing to say, you know what, we're heroes. There's something we don't know, some mystery, something interesting. Let's go on an adventure and explore it further. And it really leans into that aspect, almost to the point of you don't need any other reason to go on adventures, which is also known as chunking through hours of gameplay. You don't need any other impetus, is that the word? Catalyst for adventure, other than there's some mystery going on and we want to explore it deeper. And it really leans into that. So I love the way that it handles that. Now, these are adventures, right? It does suppose that you have access to PH, DMG, and the Monster Manual because it will refer to things in that book. But otherwise, it's module adventure format like Curse of Strahd, Out of the Abyss, Princes of the Apocalypse. When you see these things, this is a very read this to your players. When they open that door, this is what they find. Here's a map to go with it. Here's what's in room 1, room 2, and so on. So they are full-blown adventures, and notice you're getting 17 of them. Now, I'm not going to say... Obviously, you're looking at it in D&D Beyond format, so this is digital, but content's content. If you were to go out and purchase the book, you're going to get the same amount of content. I'm not saying that this thing is 900 pages, so that all 17 of these adventures are the scope and depth of the entirety of Curse of Strahd. But there's a lot here. You're getting 17 things that'll chunk you through gameplay. You know, if you were to look at your group of players as... let's say 3 of you, 4 of you go to the movie theater, right? You spend $10 on your ticket. You've got $40 in tickets to watch that 2-3 hour movie. For the price of admission here, you're looking at $25 to $30 for this Candlekeep book. Each of these adventures, from my skimming through them, can easily take up one, if not more, multiple nights of gameplay and game sessions. So you're going to have a lot here that you can chew on and take up some space at your table, which is a really good thing. So it gives you a bunch of blurbs and whatnot about Forgotten Realms itself and so on. And then here's that really cool table that shows you. And because I'm D&D Beyond, I can click on any of these to jump right into that adventure. But the essence of all of these, okay? This is not quite spoilers here, but it just kind of shows you. So this is a level 1 adventure. Remember, 4 to 6 characters. You find a book that leads characters on a quest to find a missing sage. You have a level 2, you have a level 3. It goes from 1 to 16, but the reason why there's 17 adventures is there's 2 of them that are for level 4 characters, okay? Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions. This is level 2 adventure. A monstrous revelation sheds light on a book merchant scam. Book of the Raven. A treasure map tucked inside a book beckons adventurers to a remote hilltop chalet occupied by a secret society that shuns visitors. A Deep and Creeping Darkness. Level 4 adventure. A book describing a mining disaster prompts adventurers to search for a missing town. A catchy and contagious rhyme traces back to a sinister clockwork book. That's Shemshim's Bedtime Rhyme. The Price of Beauty. Level 5. A book about beauty shows the way to a secluded temple where beauty is only skin deep. The Book of Cylinders. Engraved cylinders contained within a book tell a gripping and portentous tale when rolled across wet clay. Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor, a haunted book, points a ghostly finger at the perpetrators of an unsolved mass killing in Waterdeep. Lore of Larue, adventurers become immersed in a storybook, conflict involving Larue the Unicorn Queen and Malar the Beast Lord. Candlekeep Deconstruction, notice it's using K's instead of C's. A stolen book leads adventurers to a tower in Candlekeep that is more than what it seems. You have Zycrin's Zephyrian Tome, a genie, trapped in a book, offers a wish spell to adventurers who find a way to release him. The Curious Tale of Wisteria Vale. A book holds the key to unlocking a bard's prison. The Book of Inner Alchemy. Level 12. A search for the missing pages of a book puts adventurers in conflict with the monks of the Immortal Lotus. The Canopic Being. A book brings several puzzling organ transplants to light. The Scrivener's Tale. Level 14. A tome leaves its magical mark on the adventurers, dooming them unless they can find a way to remove it. Alcazar's Appendix, level 15. These are your highest tier stuff. A book chronicles an unsolved mystery about a wandering stone golem in the desert. And Xanthoria, your highest level 1. A fell grimoire helps adventurers end a fungal plague. Obviously, it runs full range, beginning to end. Highest tiers of gameplay to the lowest levels of gameplay. So that's on board. I love, like I said in the beginning, that a couple of writers, have made multiple, but you've got so many different people that are creating this. So it's not all coming from the mind of one person, which, again, we've all noticed. And we know when we create something, we always kind of funnel it through our own experiences and perspective. So you're getting even more diversity, not just in level range, but how it's presented, so to speak. And then, based on what I just read there, the quick descriptions, there's a lot going on. I mean, you've got things with golems, you have just delve into mysteries, you've got undead things, you've got things about curses and crypts and darkness, you have dark lords and blah, 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 right? So that's what you're getting. That's the overview, the bullet points, if you will. So let's just see what's here, okay? As we look through, I won't go over everything and no spoilers, but the general syntax or the layout, if you will, is... first off, let me go back to Candlekeep. It has a wealth of detail for Candlekeep. This is written by Chris Lindsay, edited by these following folks. You have some neat artwork for each of the books, because remember, you're finding this information in the books. If you are running Candlekeep, or even if you're using your own library, you can use this as a lot of inspiration here, where it almost feels like similar to, The Well, where Undermountain is, right? You can go into Candlekeep, and there's, as I scroll down, look how much is here. You've got entering Candlekeep, you've got mouse overs of like various NPCs you'll meet, different charts you can roll on, the defenses, what the folk within Candlekeep can do. I mean, entire stat blocks. I mean, look, I'm going to keep scrolling. There's a full map, player version. I believe you also get a poster map. There is one at the back of this here, one of the links I can click on, so therefore I'd assume when you buy the book, you're going to get the poster map as well. But you've got all of this, and it's almost like its own little mini adventure. But this is not one of the 17. This is just going to Candlekeep. So I don't know what Forgotten Realms, what 3rd edition, you know what I mean? Like how far and how much Candlekeep, the location in Forgotten Realms, has been explored. But this may now be your definitive little link to what exactly, the details of Candlekeep itself, kind of the quest hub. So I like that it presents all of this info. The who's who, the spoiler. The Silver Dragon Marine broke into Candlekeep. Adventurers who explore the passages beneath Candlekeep might encounter Miram, who's interested in news of present-day Faerun than in fighting, who's more interested. You may not have known about the dragon that's underneath Candlekeep. Here it is, full stat block. So this is stuff, again, it's not even the quests or the adventures itself, but there's just a lot here that can fill up gameplay, fill up table time if your PCs want to explore Candlekeep a little bit and learn about it and the who's who and NPCs and whatnot. So it does a really good job of giving us a lot of detail with full maps and everything about the place you go to just get your adventures and get your quests started, if you will. And again, if you're not running Candlekeep, you're using your own library or your own world, you can easily use this stuff in these NPCs and just change some names as inspiration, okay? So as we start to scroll through, you see that you saw that sort of bullet list of all 17 of them. Here they are right here. If I clicked on, let's say, Book of the Raven, gives you a cool book right here. This is definitely spoiler. I'll read this real quick. The Book of a Raven arrived in Candlekeep, fittingly enough, by way of a raven in 1282 DR, the year of the many myths. Of course, change that calendar, change that world, the names for your own world. The raven bore this book in its talons, set it on the ground within Candlekeep's walls, and pecked at its covers, until an avowed acolyte, witnessing this act of defilement, scared it away. The Marred Book quickly found its way into Candlekeep's archives, where it garnered little attention, until a visitor named Anil Zasperdes rediscovered it 60 years later and hid a treasure map inside of it. The treasure map is a prop around which you can create your own adventure, if you choose not to run the adventure that's described here. And that's the essence of it. You go into Candlekeep or your own library, you find this book, that's what it looks like. It tells you when you find it, here's some details about finding it, and so on. Every one of the 17 adventures explains what the book looks like, the description of it. This thin book bears no title inside or out. Really, really cool. And again, replace some names, remove some things, change some things around. This book fits in any world, on any table, and with, on the desk of any key wizard NPC that you want it to. And then you go on from here. Remember, it mentioned that this individual inserted a treasure map in it, and that's sort of the launch point for the adventure and the mystery. Here it is. The mystery surrounding the Book of the Raven has to do with the map that Anil slipped between its pages. It's clear that the map was never part of the book to begin with. You can photocopy and distribute the accompanying handout among your players when their characters find the map. Within its pages, you find this. In the very, very beginning of the video, I said it's very There's a mystery to be solved. There's something about, I don't know what that means. Let's go adventure. Let's explore it further. That's all you need. And it just keeps leaning into that. So I really like, it's getting the wheels turning as a dungeon master, but most importantly, it's giving me actual adventure. You know, I'm a veteran DM. I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm always creating my own stories, my own worlds. My own world book is reaching depth and heft equivalent to Eberron. So I'm putting in my own efforts here into creating my own stuff. But inevitably what happens is you run a game as a dungeon master sometimes, even the, I don't want to say the best of us, but the veterans, the ones that can come up with things on the fly. But you don't want to railroad your players. You want them, your content that you've created wants them to go west. But they don't want to go west. They want to go east. But you don't have anything there. But yet the game has started. I look at my clock and I know, oh, okay, we're not really going to stop until like 5 hours from now. How do I fill up 5 hours of gameplay? Perhaps your PCs eventually want to go west, but they need to sort of video game it and level up first. They need to get some magic items, some new resources, some new powers before they're willing to tackle what you have in the west. They need to go level up for a little while. I love that this just offers you a bunch of little adventures that you can interject into your world and your story arc to occupy time and get through some gameplay. So it's completely valuable for veteran DMs and those that are independent and creative that make their own stuff. Yet there's a lot here, 17 of them that all feel very different for me and run the range of levels that I can interject at any time. Now for new dungeon masters, this stuff is invaluable because maybe you don't know what sort of commitment it requires to be a dungeon master. You might be jazzed up and excited, but when you realize I'm painting a lot of miniatures, I'm building terrain, I've got to juggle my players, I've got to answer questions and text, and I got to prep and plan. And then what happens is 6 months later, your sessions start to fall flat because you're losing energy. You're losing that oomph because your creative juice is just, you drank it all already. Now it's just becoming tedious. So what's one of the best ways to explore, am I the right DM for this group? Or kind of feeling out your players and seeing, you know, maybe your players are new and they don't know if they really want to play a wizard or a sorcerer. What's the difference? You now have all these little adventures you can pick and pull from to just get some stuff to the table for 3, 4, 5, maybe just one session to get a little feeling out period for what this game is about. You know, so I think it's offers so much variety and content for $25-$30. So that's kind of my sort of revealing my hand and what do you call it? I don't know. Throwing my hat on. I don't know what you call it. Giving you my opinion before I finish with the video of, I think there's a lot here of value. Again, it's very, very Dungeon Master centric. You're not getting new stuff for players. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. I am a Dungeon Master at heart and its core. So anything that's sort of, here's a Xanathar's for you, I'm in. I'm on board. So here's that one, the Book of the Raven, and you'll see it's the full treatment, right? No different if I clicked on Ravenloft, except I'm just going to be scrolling longer in Curse of Strahd, right? But you've got entire mouse over points, or obviously in the book, monsters that you're going to be using, NPCs. I like this one. It has a lot of NPCs and little blurbs about them and sort of their backgrounds, personality traits, ideals, bonds. And then as you go through, I mean, there's pictures. Where I've noticed the artwork throughout, I mentioned this in Tasha's and I thought the artwork sucked. They're back on task. Wizards of the Coast is there's some beautiful art in here, you know, where it needs to be. You've got all sorts of stuff. You've got maps. Of course, there's a player version that doesn't have the key, the legend. So you can bring this to your table. Here you go. And then, boom, there it is. C1. You read this to your players. This is what's there. Servant quarters. I mean, we'll scroll down. Monsters, stat blocks, artwork you can print out, bring to your table. Turn over your phone, show them what it looks like. Treasure, blah, blah, blah. More stuff. Another player version. Map of a Harn, the Mausoleum. This is all exploring the adventure, the Book of the Raven, right? And then everything always has a little bit of a conclusion, if you will, right? Like right here. Kind of a, where do you go next? What do you do next, right? When the characters return to the study room in Candlekeep, so on and so forth, you do all of this stuff. And, you know, a lot of the conclusion points, you know, always give you, even though it's just a quick paragraph, a lot of it gives you a little bit of that. Do you tie this into another adventure? That is the one thing, and I apologize for waiting 20 minutes to mention it. There isn't anything that immediately screams, these adventures all sort of piggyback off of one another. You don't have to run these in succession. They're separate adventures, right? Because they're written by different people and they fill the range. Yes, you find the sort of the launch point is the same. You find a book in Candlekeep, but that's also why there's so much detail about Candlekeep itself. Because where you find the books, and there's one where you're kind of going into these portals and like different rooms of Candlekeep. So you might involve Candlekeep, the location itself, in very different ways, and you're finding the books there or in whatever library you choose. But they're their own sort of separate things. But these little conclusion blurbs give a little bit of inspiration as to what now? They finished this. What's next? Sure, maybe you could say, okay, they finished the level 4 one. Let's run the level 5 one next session. Let's start that one, right? But they give you little blurbs as to how you might be able to weave that into continuing your own story arc if you're interjecting this and you're not just running these as sort of isolated things. You know what I mean? So you're always going to get some sort of conclusion or wrap-up point for each of these. And as I said, every single one, I'm not going to go over all of them. That's what's here. There's 17 of them running the full range of levels, written by different people. I love that right up front. It gives you who wrote it. Gives you the credits, right? And then at the very back, or here's the contributor bios. Who are they, right? So if there's someone, oh, I know, like obviously we know Christopher Perkins. He wrote a few of them. I love his style as a DM. I've watched enough of his YouTube videos. I want to know what stories he's come up with. I'm going to look for all the ones that he's written. And those might be adventures that follow within his sort of style, right? That just kind of have that theme of his mind going with it. So I might want to lean into that. Maybe I want to find, Amy Vorpal or Jen Kretschmer. I think I watched her play on D&D Beyond. You know what I mean? So you're getting all these different ones. So you can look at that. It gives you the credits and who wrote it. What's the adventure for? Remember, 4 to 6 characters at whatever level. The full introduction. And then as we scroll through, here we go. This is, multiple acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. We're scrolling through one adventure, right? You have all of this. Maps, of course. Layouts. NPCs. Still going. This is not just one night of gameplay for me. I play 6 to 7 hours. This is going to get me through multiple sessions. And I just love, there it is, like sort of the conclusion, the aftermath. Now that it's all done, now what? So you've got 17 of those. If you were to look back at D&D Beyond in the very beginning, right here, you have 12 new magic items. Alchemy Jug, Cracked Drift Globe, a Nether Scroll of Azumar, Radiant, Serpent's Fang, Stonky's Ring. So these are all individual items that are somewhere within the different adventures. So you're going to get 12 new magic items. You have 38 monsters. I don't want to say they're new, okay? And the reason why is there's some stuff like, for example, if I was to go to Monsters tab, and then by filters, I select Candlekeep, and I filter it, you will notice that like this adult blue Dracolich, it's in the monster manual. Where this one, the animated room, it's Candlekeep Mysteries only. But if I click on it, first off, it's kind of a little bit disappointing. Not everything has artwork to accompany. But you're getting a new stat block, available only in Candlekeep Mysteries. So you have to kind of take this list of 38 and see which ones kind of cross over. Because, like for example, this adult blue Dracolich, as written, right? It's a CR17, all of the details. Well, check this out. I think he starts with the letter Z. Here he is. Zik Zakrishka. This is in Candlekeep Mysteries. It's a CR17 undead. Obviously, it's going to be one of the higher level adventures that this guy is in, whether it's the big bad boss or whatever. But when you click on it, it's the same picture. Yes, they've given it a new stat block because all instances of the name. But if you notice, and I was to go back to the monster, right there, adult blue Dracolich, and we look at these stat blocks, it's identical. Nothing's changed. AC 19, natural armor, 225, 40, 30, 80. Here's the Dracolich, AC 19, 225, 40, 30, 80. Lightning Breath, DC 20 Dex saving throw, 12d10 lightning. Lightning Breath, DC 20 saving throw, 12d10. You see, it's the same thing, except this just says Ziz exhales lightning in a 90-foot line, whereas this one will say the Dracolich. So they've replaced the word, so not every monster is a completely new thing, and that's indicated and seen by simply going here. I'm filtered under Candlekeep, and you'll see there's quite a few things, like the Beholder. You're just using the Beholder from Monster Manual. Yes, it has its own story and where it fits within the adventure, but it's hard for me to be able to say. I didn't count through every one, but I don't think, like right here, 38 monsters from Candlekeep Mysteries. But this guy is exactly the adult Dracolich. It's no different. And you're going to see that. And then there's some where there's just no, there aren't any pictures, which is kind of disappointing there, right? But there are some that are completely new. Like you have the Canopic Golem. There it is. That's only in Candlekeep Mysteries. I'm fortunate that I have all the content, so I can always filter and kind of, for spotlights at least, say, hey, here's what's there, here's what's not there. The Dragon Tortoise, that's a CR17, but look, there's no picture with it. Now, I did mention that it's the same thing to see this guy, or the Dracolich. But when you click here, it has details on its own phylactery and how all that plays into the Candlekeep storyline, versus the Dracolich might not have all of these details. But otherwise, it's not quite 38 new monsters, because a lot of stuff is reused. But there's a bunch of new monsters, 12 new magic items. Let me, Gloves of Soul Catching. I'll just do one. Here we go, Candlekeep Mysteries. Wondrous item, legendary. But notice, no picture. So, your con score is 20 while you wear these gloves. The property of... Spoilers. Obviously, sorry. This property of the gloves has no effect on you if your constitution is already 20. After making a successful unarmed strike while wearing these gloves, you can use the gloves to deal an extra 2d10 force, and you regain a number of hit points equal to the force damage dealt. Alternatively, instead of regaining hit points in this way, you can choose to gain advantage on one attack roll, ability check, or saving throw you make before the end of your next turn. So, there it is. It's obviously, I'm assuming it's going to be a reward in some higher level adventure, but 12 new magic items. 38. Take that number loosely. New monsters, 17 new adventures that run the full range, 4 to 6 players, levels 1 all the way up to 16, all tiers of gameplay. $25-30. The stuff I've read so far, I always talk about content in two ways. Do you give me anything that I can plug and play right now? Can I just grab it, print it out, bring it to my table, and it's going to help me get through 6 hours of gameplay? Or you just give me inspiration, stuff that I can think through to help me plan and create my own stuff. This is doing both. Because if I'm using my own library, my own world, there's enough here that I can kind of make the changes and interject it. If I want to just get some sparks of inspiration, ooh, I never thought about an adventure that delved into that. Or you find a book and there's a map inside of it that's not supposed to be there, but you explore the map. That might just help me create my own adventure. But the plug and play content, the immediate at the table use, I can take anything I want from here and just, guys, we're going to digress in our story arc for a little while. We're going to get through 4 or 5 sessions of gameplay. I didn't have time to prep enough last weekend. Or you kind of want to go off the beaten path and I don't have a lot of content where you're going. We're going to run through the Price of Beauty for about 3-4 levels. Or 3 to 4 sessions. Cool. My character's a 5th level. I'll make the tweaks accordingly based on my number of players. But otherwise, I am now confident that I have everything I need to run my players through something interesting, something cool. So, there it is. That's what you get. Candlekeep Mysteries, the brand new book that has been released, I'm assuming on Amazon, in stores, and here on D&D Beyond as of today. That's all I got. See you guys.